Good morning and welcome back to my channel. My name's Diana and this is Don't Mind Me. Today I want to read a spooky story which I made up. I hope you like it. If so, please like and subscribe and let me know if you want any more of these types of videos. This story is called Maplebrook House. I remember driving down a quiet country lane at the tender age of 6 with my late parents on our way to visit my aunt and noticing a set of large wrought iron gates with a sign saying Maplebrook House. A long weed-covered driveway led up to 3 concrete steps and a beautiful but strange-looking house with its original battered wooden door was at the top. Nothing really stood out about this particular house apart from its seemingly abandoned appearance. Abandoned it was not. As the years passed, I couldn't get this house out of my head. I would dream about it for nights on end. It seemed to be calling me, urging me in some strange way to free it from its past. So, as the years passed, the more intrigued and obsessed I became about buying it. Eventually, my dream of owning Maplebrook House became a reality, and I bought it via auction. So, for the next several months, leading up to the day I would finally move into my dream house, I spent all of my free time researching the history of my new home. Here is what I found out. The house was large and square, and had been built in 1827, and was first owned by a bank manager, his wife and 2 children. Sadly, they were only in the property for just over a year before tragedy struck. No one knew what really happened on that fateful day of the 30th of September 1828. All I could find was a small newspaper article that said the bank manager, his wife and children had all been found huddled together, dead. The police had found no forced entry and there were no telling marks on any of the bodies. So what had killed them? That I needed to find out. There seemed to be no information on what happened to Maplebrook House after the death of the bank manager and his family. I later found out that the property had been bought by a spinster named Maud and her younger sister Ethel, and become a school for girls in 1850. After the death of both sisters, Maplebrook House was bought and made into a residential home in the late 1880s. Owners unknown. It stayed as a residential care home for over 40 years until it had to close due to low finances. Finally, the property was bought by a man of unknown origin. Rumour had it he had bought the property for his retirement. He never moved in. This information just made me more intrigued and desperate to move in. There was so much mystery to this property. What was going on? I will never forget moving in. The excitement and anticipation was overwhelming, and the night before the move I couldn't sleep. And when I did eventually fall into slumberland, the dreams that filled my head were strange, to say the least. I moved in, and for several weeks nothing really happened, apart from the odd whisper and me hearing my name, which I put down to creaky floorboards. I spent my days unpacking boxes and placing ornaments and trinkets on shelves. Early one evening, however, I was walking down the hall, going to make myself a warm drink before going to relax in front of the fire with a good book. I felt something strange behind me, but when I looked, there was nothing there. Was I imagining it? I could have sworn something was behind me, about to reach out and tap me on the shoulder. I shook my head and carried on down the stairs and towards the kitchen. There it was again. I was definitely not imagining it, and I definitely wasn't alone. Once back in the lounge with my drink and book, I started to hear strange, blood-curdling screams, or screeches, call them what you will, coming from the outside of the window. At first I thought it could be the start of maybe a cat fight, but it couldn't be a cat, as there were no cats around this area. Strange, I thought, but I let it pass. Then the noise got louder, and I know people will say it was a vixen crying, but it definitely wasn't that. I know what a vixen sounds like, as it was more terrifying than the cries of a vixen. After a few minutes of hearing this strange noise, it disappeared into the distance. I tried to carry on reading, but the strange noise just kept playing in my head, and I couldn't concentrate. I had to find out what it was. I put my book down and climbed the stairs to bed. As I reached my door, I stopped abruptly. There was something black crouching outside my bedroom window. I walked slowly to my bed, still watching the black thing. It just continued to crouch, suspended in midair. Slowly it rose up from its crouching position and silently disappeared. I lay in bed feeling exhausted but unable to sleep. Had it been that thing outside my window that had made the weird noise I had heard earlier that evening? Or was it something more sinister? I just didn't know. This black shape had no face, no discerning features. It was just black and a shape. The experience had reignited my passion for the paranormal, which I'd first realised I had at the age of 3, when a friend of my late mother's told me a story of when she was a nurse. She had been on night duty sitting at her desk on the ward when she saw this thing floating, this white mist floating down the corridor. I will never forget that story. But I didn't think much more of it. I was young. I was, I think, 3, 4. And I will one day find out the truth about this amazing but scary house that had become my forever home. But that will be for another time. Just intrigue, and I will find the truth one day.